Good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Dilip Kumar. I've been at Amazon just a little under 20 years. Most of that time was spent in the consumer business. I moved to AWS last year to lead the applications group. The applications group is an interesting array of services, and it's a very growing array where you have our communication services, which allows you to be able to put audio, video, send SMS, email, and embed that in your business applications. Our end user computing group allows you to be able to get access to your desktop, whether it on a persistent basis using workspaces or on an ephemeral basis using AppStream to your applications, no matter where you are, regardless of whether you're an office worker or a remote worker these days. Our productivity applications is an increasing array of services again, which it has, AWS Wicker, which is our end-to-end enterprise communication service. We just launched AWS Clean Rooms, which allows companies to be able to share data in a privacy-safe way with their partners and publishers and agencies. Healthcare companies are using it. Marketing companies, advertising companies are really gravitating towards this. And finally, we have our higher in the cloud services, which are Amazon Connect, which is our call center in the cloud. We launched Supply Chain, which is our supply chain service, which provides demand forecasting as well as supply chain insights without the need for you to re-platform your entire existing infrastructure, as well as our checkout and identity services like Just Walk Out and Amazon One, which allows you to be able to create cashierless stores or biometric identity and payment in stadiums, airports, convention centers, universities, and hospitals. Andy Jassy said this recently in a meeting, which said that we have a very different way of looking at businesses, which may or may not be very similar to what other companies do, but it's just very unique to us. And whenever we're starting a new business, we're always thinking about many questions that are very pertinent to that business, but there's 4 questions that tend to stand out in almost any of these things, any endeavor that we start. The first one is, if we were to get into this business, could it move the needle for Amazon? Is this an area that is well served? Do we have a differentiated approach to whatever product or service that we're building? And finally, the question that we tend to ask is this a competency that we currently have, or is it something that we can acquire? Now, I want to look at these, with the lens of these questions, the area that you're all sort of super familiar with, which is SaaS applications. Over the last 10 years or so, SaaS applications have grown tremendously in popularity, and for a few very pertinent reasons that will probably resonate with all of you. These purpose-built, best-of-breed applications are really tailor-made to solve specific problems that go really deep into what users are facing on a daily basis, so they resonate well with them. Secondly, one of the things that makes these applications really easy to use is that it is very easy to trial these applications. You could just get started with a free trial very easily. And the virality of this application, if your teammates are using it, chances are that you're going to end up using it. Chances are that the teams that you work with are going to end up using it, and so on and so forth. So the virality allows us these applications to get disseminated all over the place very quickly, and that's actually a positive thing. Secondly, the other thing that's very important with all of these applications is that they're heavily instrumented, which allows them to be able to understand what things are resonating with users, what things are not resonating with users, so that they can make changes very quickly, which further increases the virality. So it's no surprise that the number of apps that on average all of us are using is 6 today, and it's increasing. Generally speaking, organizations tend to have a core collection of apps and a very long tail of apps, and everybody uses, depending on the line of business or the department that you're in, you use a core set of apps, and then there's a long tail of apps that you end up using. So the actual number is vastly greater than 6. One of the other things that is also pretty evident is that practically every best-of-breed app runs on AWS. They come to AWS largely because of the elasticity and the reliability of the cloud, but also because we're ubiquitously present in so many regions all across the world that allows these applications to be able to get closer to their users, which, by the way, is everywhere. It's an interesting thing when you think about the first 2 sets of things as to what kinds of opportunities it poses for personas. Because we host a lot of these applications and we get to talk to a lot of customers, one of the challenges that tends to happen is that if you're an IT administrator or if you're in the security professional in one of like any company, it could be small, medium, or a large company, you tend to be asked these questions on a regular basis. And you're expected to have authoritative answers to these questions. Like, how do I secure these apps at scale? Like, how can I gain visibility to the entire SaaS apps that are being used in my organization? And more importantly, how do I administer this in a way that the word governance, when it comes to IT and security, is typically used with something that halts progress. But it's actually not the case. What it is this constant tussle between people wanting to be able to make sure that the SaaS applications that they're deploying in these organizations are well instrumented, documented, people have a good track record of knowing what's there, especially used in the organization, but also having the right controls for it. And that's a challenging task because a lot of this requires a lot of manual work today by IT and security professionals. If you're an end user, you have an interesting different set of challenges. Almost when we talked about that you're using on almost 6 apps or the other, think about the typical day in the life of a knowledge worker. I mean, you may have real-time conversations in Slack with your teammates. Your content repository might be in Dropbox. Your project files may be in Asana or in Smartsheet. And your team meetings might be on Zoom. And once in a while, even without thinking, we're constantly context shifting between these applications to be able to find the content that we need. And context shift, while it sounds great, it tends to be a productivity drag one way or the other. So that is something that end users have frequently complained. And I sort of have the same issue as well, is that I routinely have to shift between one application and the other to know what exists where. And then the second thing is that most of what is required for us on a daily basis is the need for us to be able to figure out how to be able to generate insights. That's what we get paid. And I'm seeing myself on this screen. Great. How do I get insights across this? But that's not what you end up spending a vast majority of your time. You end up spending a vast majority of your time trying to collate a bunch of information and then figuring out how to get the right insights. So we said that if you looked at those 4 questions, this is a growing space. There's plenty of popularity in these applications. So should we be thinking about what could we do to help these group of personas of both the security professionals as well as the end users, and what could we do in a differentiated manner? So I'm happy to introduce AWS App Fabric, which is a simple way for you to be able to connect your SaaS applications with no coding required. It allows for better security, better management, as well as end user productivity. Let me show you how. If you are a IT or a security professional, one of the things that tends to happen is that you have all of these applications that you have to manage on a point-to-point basis. So App Fabric will automatically connect any of the SaaS applications that are part of the fabric. It aggregates all the logs, but it goes a step further. So that because these logs are in very different formats, it normalizes the logs to be able to create it into a common format that is well understood by your existing security tools that you use in the organization. And lastly, it allows you to be able to set up common rules and alerts so that you don't have to do this on an app-by-app basis. Apparently, I need to click it harder. The other thing that's going to be coming soon is this notion of a productivity assistant. The idea that you can perform cross-app actions from your favorite app is one of the things that we honed in on. Is you could be in Asana and you could send a Slack message, or you could be in Slack and you can create an Asana task. The ability to be able to perform cross-app actions without leaving the tool that you're currently operating in, without requiring that context switch, is something that has resonated with a lot of users. And the idea that you can initiate a search to be able to find content no matter where this might be located from any app. So you could be resident in a particular app, search for whatever content you're looking for, and this would be able to collate and aggregate all of this content in the same place without you having to go and pull it from different places. And lastly, in a world where generative AI tends to be making more and more of a splash, why not spend more time trying to figure out how this can create the types of insights that you need, rather than you having to come and collate all and pull all this information to be able to create those insights yourself. And here's a video that will actually show some of this at work.
On average, we're using 4 to 6 applications to do our job. All this switching can be very distracting when we're in a meeting, for example. Let's take a look at how AWS App Fabric can streamline this experience.
I'm excited about our upcoming widget product launch. Chris, can you give us an update from marketing on the product taglines we've been discussing?
Sure. The agency sent over product tagline proposals in a file last night, and there's some really great options in there. Has anyone had a chance to review it? We're going to need a decision by Friday, July 7th.
I haven't reviewed them yet, but I see that App Fabric found a file and some emails for me about the taglines here in the meeting. Are those showing for you too?
Yeah, it found it for me too.
I can see them on my end. If you want to go ahead and open that and take a look, I actually reviewed it before and I like number 3 the best. Chris, can you review these taglines with our beta customer, Any Company Bank, before your deadline?
Sure, I can do that.
As the conversation progresses, App Fabric uses generative AI to surface relevant content and suggest tasks. It then continues monitoring the Zoom meeting so it can refine the task, add more details, and create additional tasks so the conversation keeps flowing. Afterwards, meeting attendees can modify and populate suggested actions before they're sent to other applications.
Thanks, everyone. This has been a super productive meeting. App Fabric suggested a few dates. I'm actually going to modify the dates slightly on this one, so the review is done before the deadline. And I'll send these to Asana.
Now, after the meeting, Chris continues to manage his beta project in Asana. App Fabric scans for relevant content across all of his apps and summarizes insights with contextual links. On his home screen, we see a new insight generated by App Fabric based on the task created from the Zoom meeting, as well as conversations in chat and email. It recommends that he send an email to the customer requesting their feedback. When he clicks there, he can put some finishing touches on the email App Fabric has already drafted for him before hitting send. App Fabric, powered by generative AI, works natively with over a dozen SaaS applications to boost productivity and will be available soon.
I'm super excited about this. One of the things that we pride ourselves in AWS is that our competency is to be able to build on behalf of our customers and to constantly deliver innovation. And App Fabric is a very good step in that direction, which allows, and so it works with 17 different SaaS applications, the ones that you see over here. And there's many more that are coming in the coming months. I feel like we're just about getting started to be able to create both a better way to be able to administer this growing array of SaaS applications and organizations for IT and security professionals, as well as improve productivity for end users by making much more interoperable these SaaS apps that you all love. Now, I'd like to welcome David Tan to come in, who's the general manager for App Fabric, to give a little more detailed overview of this. Thank you all. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Dalit. Thank you, Dalit. Hi, my name is David Tan, General Manager of AWS App Fabric. I've been at Amazon 9 years, and one of the things I love about our culture is our culture of inventing on behalf of customers. And that's what has made working with these partners so amazing, is that as we work with each one of them, they share their passion for inventing on behalf of their customers. What's really neat, each one of these partners has been able to work across a specific angle to really innovate and solve a particular problem. You have leading security tools here that are really best in class in what they do. You have the leading meetings in terms of video meetings and video calling capabilities. You have the leaders in instant messaging and leaders in project management tools. And each one of these apps takes a very specialized approach in terms of how they cater to their user and how they invent for their customers. And so that has been such a privilege to be able to work with these partners. And so then it's no surprise that when we meet customers, they tell us that they depend on these apps. That these apps really form the modern application stack that they rely on for their competitive advantage and their digital transformation. We saw that during the pandemic. As you recall, this black swan event that no one saw coming hit us, and companies relied on apps like Zoom and Asana and Jira, Smartsheet, Slack, to continue their business as if nothing happened. Having the modern application layer allowed these companies to be cloud first and continue working with folks now not coming in the offices and working remotely and collaborating. And so from a customer perspective, customers have told us they rely on the modern application layer. It's crucial for them, and there's more and more being built on AWS every day. But while customers tell us that their businesses and their users love adopting these tools, the IT and security folks tell us that there's some challenges. And Dilip spoke about some of the questions that they get asked. So how do I increase my observability across my complex application stack? How do I maintain security across the growing number of applications? And how can I be in a proactive position versus a reactive position when I'm responding to threats? Let's go a bit deeper into what that means for customers. How are security and IT people answering these questions today, and why is this hard? To understand why it's hard, we have to go into some of the technical details of how you integrate applications together. So in the cloud world, each application operates in what's called a little bit of a data silo, meaning the data works within the application and not with others. To integrate applications together, developers use tools called application programming interfaces, or APIs. And as we talked about, each one of these tools has a very particular angle around how they invent for their customers, and they're very different. And you can imagine that document storage is different than project management, is different than instant messaging. And so the schemas or the data models of these APIs are quite different. So if I'm a company and I'm an IT and security person and I want to get oversight, I now have to do integration with an exponential growing number of these APIs. And so let's go into the 4 challenges that an IT and security person have to do before they're able to get the observability they need to stay proactive and answer these 3 questions. First of all, there's the API to API integration. And as mentioned, the schemas and the data models are very different for each of these. Typically, you got to find a developer, you got to do the research. Sometimes the API exists, sometimes it doesn't. You got to integrate it, and then you got to maintain it. Once you've integrated it, the schemas and all these different types are different. And so there's some normalization work on how to pull it together so you can correlate the data into something that works across applications. Then you have to aggregate it into a common place, and then you can do your analysis. So what companies have told us is that the resources to do this work and the exponentially growing number of integrations is a challenge. And they would love their security and IT teams to be able to get straight to the analysis and the security oversight which they need. Enter AWS App Fabric, which we invented on behalf of customers. What AWS App Fabric does is take care of this heavy lifting for customers around the integration, the normalizing, and we actually do some enriching of the data, and the aggregation so that customers can focus on what matters most, their SaaS observability. Let's get into that a bit more. So as mentioned, we're integrating data from multiple types of applications, from project management tools, from instant messaging, video calling, document storage, and others. And we're normalizing that into a common schema, which we'll talk a little bit more about, that goes natively into a customer's AWS environment, either through Amazon S3, or Amazon Kinesis, or Amazon Security Lake. And what that does is basically abstract away all of this integration and normalizing complexity so that customers can focus on the IT and security tasks they need to do. Now, we talk about inventing on behalf of customers, and one way we do this is by partnering with the open source community. When Security Lake launched at last reInvent, they worked with the community to create the OCSF schema, or the Open Cybersecurity Schema Framework, for AWS infrastructure and normalizing logs across different types of infrastructure. We were able to work with the community and Splunk and others to extend the schema from the infrastructure layer to the application layer so that it's valuable for these different types of apps. There's 2 main areas that we partnered with the community on here. So the first is around identity and access management, where we added some additional classes around user access management and group management that are more relevant around user interactions and apps. And the second is around application activity, which is a whole new category we work with the community to create, where we have web resource activity and web resource access. And these are things like importing and exporting and different actions that are happening in applications. What that does is allow us to normalize all of this data and all of these audit logs from different types of applications into a common schema that can be actionable by customers. So how can AWS App Fabric help you? Well, first of all, we talked about the modern application layer of cloud-first applications being crucial for our customers. What this does is it allows customers to accelerate adoption of those apps. That's going to accelerate their business transformation, and it's going to empower IT and CISOs to really move at the speed of their businesses that are adopting these applications and still get security oversight. So any future Fabric-enabled application will become plug and play into an existing framework that already exists around integration, normalization, aggregation, so security can be done without any new development needed or any changes to the security tools. Secondly, as we mentioned, it increases security observability, and we're going to talk about a couple of customers that are using AWS App Fabric today to do that. It allows security people to focus on what matters most to them, which is detect anomalous behavior faster. And so that's very important for our customers who tell us they have a job to do, and security teams need to be able to get on top of this and take action when threats emerge. And finally, we reduce operational costs for our customers by taking care of the heavy lifting around integrations. So customers can dedicate their resources around differentiated capabilities rather than integration heavy lifting. Let's talk a bit about a couple of customers that are using AWS App Fabric today. Our first customer is the largest bank in Israel, Bank Leumi. They operate in the highly regulated financial services industry, and they're actually quite a sophisticated AWS customer. So today they have monitoring and threat detection built for the AWS resources that they use, and they use Amazon Redshift and Amazon Aurora to do analytics on this data. But as you can see here on the right, the SaaS app, getting visibility in the SaaS apps is a challenge for the reasons that we discussed. The integration work has to be done with each application. The normalization is difficult to do, and at the time, the OCS schema was not available. And the aggregation also takes work. And so there's some work needed and some costs and some time in order to put developers on the work to do the integration before the security analysts can get the oversight they want and the visibility they want into what is happening with the SaaS applications. With App Fabric, they've been able to use App Fabric to take on the heavy lifting of doing the integrations, doing the aggregation, normalizing into OCSF, and actually enriching the logs with a unique user ID. So that the security analysts now get full stack visibility. So now in their existing AWS environment, security analysts that historically used it for infrastructure oversight are now also able to get application oversight and application observability at the same time and really have that full stack cloud-first oversight. According to the head of cyber data, we've been really able to accelerate their security visibility and really, when things happen, allow them to take action much quicker. And that makes us very proud. Let's talk about a second customer that's using AWS App Fabric today. Very different type of customer, rapidly growing startup. Digital native, born in the cloud, rapidly innovating. Optibus is a startup that is reinventing how bus fleets operate today using machine learning. But it's similar to Bank Leumi, while they have built the oversight and the observability needed for their infrastructure into S3, there's a missing piece around all the work that has to happen to integrate visibility for SaaS apps. Again, the normalization, aggregation, and integration. So it's a very similar scenario where there's a missing piece of visibility around what is happening in the SaaS apps. With AWS App Fabric, again, us taking on this integration lifting for them, they've been able to consolidate all of the logs coming from these different SaaS applications into S3, which natively integrates in with QuickSight and Athena and their existing monitoring and threat detection dashboards. And so again, we're able to give a customer historically using AWS infrastructure observability to have full stack observability of leading SaaS applications as well. According to their CISO, we've been able to double their visibility into SaaS activity overnight. And that's just getting started. I want to talk a little bit about where we're going with AWS App Fabric and some of the core tenets driving us. And when we meet customers, they really tell us that these are 3 things that really matter. And when we say we're customer obsessed, we work back from some of these. So first of all, we're user-centric. There's a wide range of user types that use AWS App Fabric. And these are customers like marketing people, but marketing people use different tools than salespeople, who use different tools than HR people. And so these are all different kinds of tools. And so a key tenet for us is that we're going to meet users where they are. We're also going to empower users to use apps of their choice. And we really firmly believe in choice because it's the user-centric way that, and again, a marketing person will use a different set of tools than salespeople, than HR people. And so we really want to give the users the best tool for the job. Second, customers told us that we need to be security first. And so this is very good for us because customers today rely on AWS security for our infrastructure, and we have demanding customers in all sorts of very demanding and highly regulated industry that depend on AWS security. And we're going to bring the same level of security to AWS App Fabric. So for example, the logs that are coming in here are encrypted at rest and using keys that customers are already using, or you can set up another key. So there's a native integration with the existing AWS environment that customers are already using. Finally, a key tenet for us here is simplicity. And this is something we've been doing more and more as we work back from not just developers, but also app users who are not developers. You can look at the simplicity with this launch as for example, we have gone ahead and worked with the community to create the OCSF format and really extend it and give customers that end-to-end capability that they want. So I want to end by talking a bit, as Dilip showed, of some of the ways we're applying generative AI as well to taking on the integration heavy lifting for customers. As we've met with customers and talked to their IT and security teams, they've also described a number of other use cases that we could apply this to. And so Dilip showed a demo of some of the capabilities we're doing. We're very excited to be able to bring the capabilities of integrated SaaS apps to customers to elevate their security posture, to reinvent productivity with generative AI so that they can accelerate adoption of this modern tech stack. I want to leave you with a video that we put together to showcase some of these capabilities.
Purpose-built SaaS applications provide more options than ever before to optimize your team's productivity. These applications make employees more productive and more satisfied with their jobs. As a result, the average organization licenses over 100 SaaS applications. But applications from different vendors aren't built to work together, creating data silos that make it harder to secure and manage corporate data, and cumbersome for employees constantly switching between applications to find content or perform tasks. Some organizations try to solve this by creating point-to-point integrations between each application. Still, those take weeks or months to develop and cost even more to maintain. AWS App Fabric is a fully managed service that quickly connects SaaS applications across your organization with no development required. IT and security teams can easily manage and secure applications using a standard schema, and employees can complete everyday tasks faster using generative AI. App Fabric eliminates the complexity of building and maintaining point-to-point SaaS app integrations and helps improve security posture by providing better visibility across application data. App Fabric aggregates and normalizes data into a common repository, so setting common policies and alerts and managing user access across different applications is easier. App Fabric also lets you use generative AI to surface insights, create content, or perform other tasks spanning multiple applications, connecting content to increase productivity and collaboration. Easily connect your SaaS applications for better productivity and security today.